Journalism is a craft. I support my country. What's the source? I hope it's not very realistic. It will be much better with an apple tree.
Nowadays, they say that everybody can be a journalist, so because you just go on the street, you see something, you can film it, you can fix it, you can write a message, you can write a Twitter message, tweet or whatever. How is the journalistic profession different from what the people just report on, so when they are just passing by something?
Journalism is a craft. Journalism obeys certain standards of fact-checking, of sources, of also of grammatical, literary, and so on standards, different standards, and this is something that makes journalism different from just publishing, and of course. There is a challenge for journalism today. And I think it's not only in all these different people who can call themselves journalists or influencers or whatsoever, but of course also in propaganda and disinformation using all these channels. And it becomes very hard for people to understand what they are actually reading, whether it's journalism or propaganda or disinformation and so on. So this is making our journalistic job more challenging, maybe. But I think it's also a chance for journalists to actually stick to their rules, stick to their craft, and explain people, making it transparent what makes journalism so different from just publishing something.
What has happened to the society, so when they do not follow some ethical standards or whatever, so just if we take a look at social media, so we see a lot of hate speech messages, we see a lot of just blatant accusations or blatant assumptions, and so on and so forth. So just like, because of course, so there is ethical standards in journalism. So, but if talking about the society, so what has gone wrong, or hasn't it gone wrong? So, or was the society always like this, and only social media have amplified this effect?
No, I mean, this is almost a philosophical question now. I mean, we see crises anywhere, and we see the whole world in a huge crisis at the moment. And of course, this is also affecting journalism and trust in journalism. We see that trust in any institution, democratic institution, also is like shrinking, or at least it's kind of shaken. And of course also trust in journalism is somehow shaky, is something shaky, and people ask questions, and which is fine to ask questions, but many people also are losing trust in any system, let's put it like this. And also journalism is facing this challenge, of course. But I think maybe, it's not only in society, but, we have discussions also amongst journalists. So also, especially when facing populism in so many different countries and today, journalism becomes under threat, it's under threat, and journalists and media outlets are facing more and more pressure. So it's also amongst journalism and journalists a debate. Okay, how far can we go? I mean, and if we say something or write something, we are also made activists. People might blame us. Oh, you're an activist because you say this or that. Or facing all these challenges, like climate change and so on. So if we're writing about these topics, are we already activists? What can we do not to be activists? And shouldn't we be somehow activists? And this is a permanent discussion also amongst journalists. And I think that so some lines are blurry also. It's not always easy to divide, the lines. But I think the most important is that the higher ideal that you should follow as a journalist is never to be an activist, and to provide information to the people so that they can build their own informed opinion. That should be the ideal, and you should follow it, though it might not always be easy to reach it, but it should be the whole idea behind your profession.
This is also what you are telling. So in your workshops, you are providing together with Mandy Ganske-Zapf, your colleague in Magdeburg. So you mentioned propaganda and counter-propaganda quite a few times already. So during this interview, then a kind of preparation, you need to counter arguments which are non-conventional, most probably. So just what is your experience from those workshops countering propaganda, and specifically Russian propaganda, so here in Germany or elsewhere?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's workshops that we are doing, me and Mandy, at different schools in not only Magdeburg or Saxony-Anhalt, but all over Germany. And it's 4 schools, so for young students from age 13 to 18. And what we do actually, we also show them some parts of, for example, evening with Vladimir Solovyov. We talked with them about a certain approach to not journalism, but propaganda. So people who are doing this kind of shows, but also who write this certain kind of propaganda news. So what's their idea about journalism? It's like they say, my truth is that I support my country. I support my state. But this is like their ideal. And to do so, to defend this kind of truth, I'm allowed to lie. And so we talk about them. So what's the ideal actually of journalism? Is this journalism? What is professional journalism about? So we come to know that the higher ideal of professional journalism shouldn't be I defend this or that state or whatever, but I try to understand the truth or to become closer to the truth by looking for facts, by fact-checking, by checking my sources, and so on and so on. And and it's working really well and very interesting, because what we understood is that young students, or especially any people maybe in Germany, they are quite surprised when they watch polit talk shows. Because they usually don't see this kind of things. But immediately, even if they don't understand a word, the atmosphere in these talk shows, they understand what propaganda is about. It's about emotions. It's about emotional truth, actually, and about forming, a certain image of you are a friend and you are an enemy. And
you also see how different it is from what you see in Germany.
Yes.
So on German television there are also a lot of political talk shows, and there is a lot of criticism also from different parts of society. But of course it is completely different.
It is, but it's also interesting that these students, they don't watch them. It's already a different media behavior. If I mention Maischberger or Maybrit Illner or Lanz, they look at me like, who is that? So they don't know it. But still, they do understand that Russian polit talk show is not about facts.
Yeah. So, but your students know TikTok very well, for example.
Yeah.
Right. So just can they discover untruth there, so lies there? So just or how do they perceive TikTok videos, these short movies? So just what does appeal to them? So are they searching for truth there, or are they searching for entertainment?
Well, I would say, yeah, of course, they are also searching for entertainment, but very often I'm quite surprised how well educated actually many, at least younger students are. And the very first question that Mandy and I always have is like, what's the most important question when you meet an expert like us? What's the most important question that you have when you start your TikTok or whatever, when everybody is telling you some truth? And they all say, what's the source? Who's the source? They all
great.
know it.
Yeah.
They really, that's my experience. But yeah, but that's one thing. And the other thing is we do know all this theoretically and so on, but propaganda is working with our emotions, with our uncertainties and so on. So it's about really shaping this understanding about what propaganda is doing, and also some kind of self-reflection, maybe. Why am I willing to believe certain narratives? Why are we as a society willing to believe it? And well, as Ivan Krastev, he once said, yeah, we have one European dream, but every single nation has its own nightmares. And propaganda is playing with these nightmares very, very well, examining these nightmares, Russian propaganda, examining these European nightmares very, very well, and playing with them, using them. And so, yeah, so what we do is also, we try to make aware about our nightmares, about our blind spots, about our discourses that are building this fruitful ground for propaganda to spread. And that's what we're doing also with the students. And yeah, and it's super interesting also for us. We have very, very good discussions, yeah, and we also try, to simply build knowledge. To when we say, okay, Ukraine has always been Russian, one main propaganda narrative, Russian propaganda narrative, and who believes this? So it's like the first question: who of you believes this? And some really, they don't know, because they don't really know, about all this space there. It's somehow, it's not Russia, but somehow it's Russia, and so it's not even that they may be also naive or whatsoever, but it's a felt truth. People do not know. So it's really important to talk about Ukrainian history and so on, and about nation building. And so we show them also a map, not only of Kiev, Rus, but also a map of the Frankenreich with Charlemagne, Karl der Große, Charles the Great. And we ask them, so look where your city is located within this map. Are you French now? Are you German? Where do you belong to? So we try to explain them that if you go back to the mid-century and trace back there and say, okay, this is ours, it doesn't work. And we, and it's always, well, I think one main column to build on when it's about fighting propaganda is really knowledge. And this is what we also try to
and actually, so I think also comparisons help a lot. So, but if you use these comparisons in the right way, So, for example, also, so on this channel, so I have a video about cultural differences between Germans and Austrians, So, but in business culture. So of course, so because every person is unique, so but some patterns still apply, and there were some comments in Russian, just like it is a divided nation. So just like because this is a narrative which is also used by Russian propaganda towards Ukraine or towards Belarus or towards other former Soviet republics. So, or if, for example, somebody from France is standing well, so maybe still, so Ukraine is Russia. So what you say? Well, so but. Maybe Belgium is also France,
Yeah.
So just like, maybe, would you like to invade Belgium or whatever?
Yeah.
So just and then the person starts thinking. So so because of course it is not 100% comparison. So Ukrainian language is different from Russian. So well, Belgium French is also different from
I know what
French,
you
but
mean.
still,
of course, it's not always a 100% the same. It can be, but the pattern behind it is like the same. And also the process of nation building, which is quite modern actually, which began in the 19th century and so on. And to explain that today we have nation states, they are all constructions, but within a certain historical framework and logic. And why do we have these frontiers today? Because people obey certain treaties. And if we stop obeying these treaties, what would happen in Europe? What do you think? So it, and we work very closely together also with the teachers. We ask them, so what's the subject now in history class, for example, or in your social class and so on. And we try, if they talk about nation building, we try to build on that and explain more about also Ukrainian nation building and so on. And or if they're talking about Russian Revolution, we try to use what they already know and get a little bit deeper into it. So yeah, it depends on the certain class, on the teacher and so on.
This is a great facilitator's work, I must say so, just because you actually also build up on what is in the room now, so what's in the space.
I mean, that's what we try at least.
So but do you encounter resistance to what you are talking from time to time, or is are these students, all of them, embracing what you are offering them? So just or do they say no, so I don't believe you, so this is different?
Well, anything happens. There are students that are already very well into the subject, let's put it like this, and who are very open and really keen to engage in discussion also in this workshop. There are others who don't say anything, and there are those who say, but what are you talking about? You hear certain political positions from the German discourse, of course, and there is what about NATO? Or others that they, but look at Russia, they have a great economy, and here people don't have anything, and so on and so on. And but we are always open to any of these reactions and try to take them and have a closer look at them. And are you sure? Is it really that cool, the Russian economy? Let's have a look. What do we know about it? What do scientists say? What do people in Russia maybe say about it? And so on and so on. And so, we try to take any opinion seriously. And I think it's really also kind of crucial when countering propaganda. It's, at least to me, in my approach, and I think Mandy would agree to that, maybe, hopefully, it's not so much, in the first place, it's not so much about convincing. It's about understanding where does this opinion come from. And it's also about understanding what is really going on and trying to explain that and try to explain understand why is propaganda using certain narratives? Why is disinformation working with certain patterns? And why do you believe this? And maybe it's different. Let's have a closer look. Let's ask all those kind of sources that we could rely on and check and so on. So, yeah. So this is our approach.
Yes, but so maybe you have partly asked this question already. So, but when you encounter another opinion, so that the people are of another opinion and they have a very strong opinion on this. So, what is your approach of dealing with these people, of talking to these people? So, just because this is a channel about networking, and I'm interested specifically in how you communicate to those people who are opposing your position or whatever. So I don't know. So maybe from the students, but also maybe from adult audiences. You know. So because with the adults, it is maybe even more challenging to a certain extent. So because they have already a certain set of opinions, certain mindset, and so on and so forth. But yeah.
Well, I think it's the same approach. I try to understand why does she or he think like that, or where does this opinion come from? And I ask them, but what makes you think so? Why do you think this is like this or that? Or And I try to understand, and I try to explain my point of view, or I try to provide some information. And of course people are different, and they are also in a different way. They are open or not open. And maybe some people are already lost to propaganda, I don't know. And but then it's still worth the discussion, maybe also for those people sticking around that don't know. Maybe not for this one single person, but for others. I mean, it's also frustrating. And but what can we do? What can we do now? You know, we could give up right away or plant our little apple trees.
Yeah. But when is the moment when you say, okay, I give up with this specific person? So just like until this moment, so I can still explain something. So, but if it does not work, so then so this person is lost.
I don't know. I would never say any person is lost forever. Maybe I lost them in a short conversation, and I think, okay, it doesn't make sense. So I can't go any further, or I can provide another 500 arguments. This person won't believe me anyway. So this happens. It depends on the person, on the situation, and but it's not maybe so much about convincing this one single person right now and forever. It's about keeping the discourse alive, about keeping maybe about sowing some productive doubt within a person. You know, doubting, okay, everybody's doubting somehow, but let's make this productive, this kind of doubting.
Doubting and reflecting.
Just
like so you also stimulate this reflection process within the person.
I try to. I don't know if it always works out.
Okay. You know, so your life and career has very much to do with Russia and with Eastern Europe. And if talking about journalism again, so in this region, so for example, you've been also the editor-in-chief for Decoder, so a medium which was explaining Russia and Belarus to the German audience and vice versa. If I may put it like this. And you know, also in some Belarusian and Russian circles, there is a belief that counter-propaganda might be fighting the propaganda. So what is your opinion about counter-propaganda?
I do not believe in counter-propaganda. It doesn't mean that as a human being that also feels anger, pain, whatsoever, I do get it where this conviction comes from, that you, at a certain point, you think, hey, it's so much propaganda. We have to counter it with counter propaganda, because of course the other way that I already described, stick to professional journalism, it can be used against you. It's so slow, it's so also painful sometimes, and it seems that it's not like working out properly, let's put it like this, that the very fast win isn't there. And so I get it, but I think it's absolutely the wrong way to do counter propaganda. It's if we think in these big categories of truth and lies, let's stick to the truth. At least as a goal, something we might never really achieve, but aim to it. I think it's super important, and it's also about trust and everything. So we should really build on that and not on counter propaganda.
Somebody would argue that, well, so it is good to talk like this in an established democracy.
Yeah.
So, but for example, I heard from one Ukrainian journalist. It was already after the annexation of Crimea. And it was a lecture I was providing to an audience, and I was also shown it as an example of course, I was talking about examples of propaganda in Russia, in Serbia, but also half-truth in one of the Ukrainian reports.
Yeah.
And this Ukrainian journalist came up to me and told me, well, so we are at war with Russia. So don't you think that we are allowed to use these techniques in this specific moment? And it was still not this full-scale invasion of Ukraine, so at that moment. So now, of course, the situation is much, much, much worse than it used to be at that time. So should we stick to these journalistic standards in each and every situation? Or are there any exceptions which allow us not to follow the standards?
Well, I know this discussion also from 2014 when we're here at n-ost, and back then n-ost was organizing a conference, Stereoscope Ukraine, and exactly this kind of discussion rose up there, and it was a discussion amongst Ukrainian participants. Should we do counter propaganda or not? And already back then, and yeah, I mean, I still think it's not the proper way. As I said, I can understand where this feeling that there's a need to do so comes from. Yeah, but I think, I mean, the situation today is worse. As you said, we had a full-scale war now, and but we don't have it because we didn't do counter-propaganda. We have it because many people here, because of our national fears maybe, because many people didn't listen, didn't really look at, Ukraine, didn't really listen to what Poland, the Baltics, and so on said, didn't look what happened in Georgia 2008, and so on and so on. So it's not because we didn't do counter propaganda, it's because we didn't really listen because we didn't really look to what was actually going on.
People also expect that conflicts, wars would not last forever, so that they would end just from one day to another, and then if they last longer than the people expect, so then there is a certain fatigue. So, but it doesn't mean, of course, that the peace should be dealt on dictators' conditions.
No, of course not. And I don't know. I mean, there are so many reasons why people might be tired of bad news or whatsoever. They maybe, the people are afraid of any change, and there are so many theories why this is happening, all this populism and all this backlashes and wishing back to the 80s, or I don't know, where people what fantasies, nostalgia is there in any society actually. And there are so many different reasons, but we will have to pay a very, very high price for this. And and I mean, I don't have the solution what to do. I think it's really about, what Martin Luther said. He said, if someone comes and tells me that there's tomorrow the world is gone, so apocalypse now, I will go and plant an apple tree. And I think, okay, so maybe I'm not Lutheran, but still, so this is maybe what we can do, plant apple trees. And if the world really goes down, I mean, it will be much better with an apple tree in front of the window than without. I mean, of course, it's I put it like this now, but this is like some thoughts that I try to tell myself or so, because it's really, I'm really concerned.
What gives you hope? So in these times, I understand, so you're already, and probably so you have planted quite a few trees already, apple trees. So, but still, so what gives you hope in these times?
Oh God, hope. Well, maybe hope is not very realistic at the moment. I don't know. But what gives me strength, or what gives me power to move on, is actually all these people from Ukraine, also from Russia, that I meet, and that try to make a difference, that try to move on. And also from Germany, my colleagues, Mandy, people here from n-ost and so on, that I understand, okay, I'm not alone.